basically we should let people know that it's being recorded, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be on Nantucket TV at some point. I think Maureen mentioned that as well. Okay, yeah, but her camera's not working. Okay. So now, do we have the minutes? Did anybody get the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah, I got them.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
attached to the packet that Maureen sent.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Seconded?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, they're approved. So why don't we just jump right into the agenda? I don't think there's any public comments because no one's on but us, right?
I think you have to go roll call and have to get approvals for everything.
Okay.
At a time.
Jack Gardner, you here?
Yes.
Emma Young, are you here?
Yes.
Blair Janelle, you're here?
Here.
And I'm here. So we're all here and we have a quorum.
Yeah, so is it just the four of us now?
Yeah, Maureen's dialing back in, so it's just the four of us.
I mean, on the board, we don't have Diane.
Oh, yeah, on the board. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We lost another one?
I think,
Fine.
yeah, I think Diane left.
Yeah, Diane's too busy. She's got a lot going on, so. But anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Same
Christmas.
to you.
And everybody looks healthy. I hope no one's gotten the COVID at all, right?
No.
All good on this front.
That's good. So we'll just move through it real quick. I thought it'd be a good idea to get together and just circle back because we really haven't gotten together since what, March, right? Or earlier than
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it was
Right.
Yeah,
long.
March, just a couple days before everything shut down.
Yeah.
Right. So just let me give you a quick update. I made a presentation to the select board. I don't know if you all saw it, but on the phase one. If you didn't see it, it's up on YouTube, and I'll get it to you. You know, the Nantucket channel, I guess, whatever they have it. So, but anyway, it went well. It just reiterated what we all discussed and approved. So tonight, I just want to talk about a few things, particularly with regard to, you know, what people expect of us. You know, some people, my feeling is, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I think some people feel we have more obligations than we realize, and I don't know if it's less or more, but in any event, I don't know how people feel about that, but the way I see it is that we're an advisory board primarily, and we have some oversight on the facilities and make recommendations. That's where I'm coming from. Does everybody feel that way?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it is.
Pretty much. Okay, that's good. So, you know, I just want to talk a little bit about No Badir first. Again, I don't know what oversight we have there, but I did send a note to Rob, and I think I may have copied some of you on this. I know I've copied Blair.
Mhm.
So I just think that it maybe needs a little more attention.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's our role to give input on that, or we just to point it out, or do none of the above. So I just don't want people to think I'm sticking my nose where it doesn't belong. But, you know, the signage on the soccer field, you know, Blair and I went down there and took a look at it. I don't know if you all have been down there, but I just think it needs to be tidied up a little bit. You know, the advertising banners and, you know, Blair, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Tom. I mean, obviously, as we move into the, you know, once this all gets approved and the Parks and Rec master plan comes together, that keeping the facilities looking nice and neat and making sure that there's law and order with that, with the organizations, I think is definitely something that's important. On that front, since obviously me working with the community school and us doing the scheduling and permitting at that venue, I did reach out to the president of that organization. I've since found out that there's been some changeover, so I didn't hear back from that individual. And now there's a new acting president. So we've had a couple conversations. He's aware about the banners. And I think moving forward that, that can be something that I feel like, thinking of like the role of this too, that you bring up, Tom, and what our responsibilities are, I think that there's some room for Parks and Rec to kind of be involved in this process. Like I can be the liaison of communication between like that front of things, what we call community recreation, and the commission. And we do have stakeholders meetings as well, and there's one coming up January 6th. So it's definitely something that I'll bring up again as well at that meeting.
Yeah, I don't know if Emma and Jack have been down there, but I just think it's a reflection on Nantucket as a whole, not just the soccer program.
Right.
Because the banners are sponsorship banners, and me as a business owner, I would not sponsor that organization if my banner was not going to be not well presented and taken care of. So, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it's something that I'm glad you're taking the initiative on it
Mhm.
and, get it addressed because ultimately, perception is reality, and they may think that someone may think that we're not doing our job. So I think we need to get it on the table.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Um, and there's a few other things down there that are more minor, but I think Emma's a business person. She runs a business. I have a business. You run an organization. Jack has been involved for a long time. So I think it's fair to say it's all about the details. When I go look at something into a business or an organization, you look at the small details, right? And if the small details aren't getting taken care of, the big details aren't. So.
But
Right.
grass looks better this year than it has in a long time because it didn't get as much use this year.
Yeah.
It looks lots better.
Yeah. Well, the fields down there look awesome.
Right.
They're beautiful. The grass fields are just really, the grass is nice and tight knit
Mhm.
and it's lush. So it just goes to show that people who've been pointing out that we need more fields and rotate them in accordance with whatever maintenance schedule people deem appropriate is really important. So in the end, I think Nobadir is going to have really, really nice fields because we only have to add a couple. So,
Yeah, those are the best that those have ever looked. And there was an issue a few years back where their irrigation system went out. I think it got struck by lightning and they looked atrocious after that. I mean, the grass was really spotty. And not to mention, I think that the like what the grass was planted on wasn't ideal for drainage. So those fields have always struggled, but they look amazing. I went down there recently and
yeah.
took a look, and it's just great to see that grass finally
Yeah.
growing. And I think,
And once the master plan gets implemented with that extra soccer field down there, there's no
Yeah.
reason why it can't continue because ultimately you won't have to have practice and games on the same grass field. So,
right.
but the other thing I was curious about with Nobadir is that movie screen down there. Is that temporary? Do we know what is that?
That's the Dreamland, and I believe the land bank owns those fields. So I think the land bank gave permission to the Dreamland to put that up.
Okay,
Yes.
so we should not, and we did not have any role in making that decision because,
Yeah, because that's land bank land that the
okay,
town, I think,
Leases.
leases. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're exactly right, Emma. Land bank owned, town leased, and then I believe that agreement was made with the licensing and permitting department and the Dreamlands.
yeah. All right, well, that's good information because somebody made the comment to me on Nantucket says, why did you let them put up that movie screen? And I didn't say anything. I go, what movie? I'm thinking, what movie screen? Then I went down there and saw it and I said, oh, but that's good to know because, the reason I was curious is that a couple of times the permitting person came to our meeting to get permission to use a beach or something. So I didn't know if,
I think we can do approval of jetties and children's.
yeah, okay. Well, good, then it's not on our plate. All right, that's fine. So the last thing I want to comment on, and then let other people put their input, we're supposed to be getting back to tennis shack down at Jetty's Beach, is that right?
Yeah. So From how I've heard it, the Natural Resources Building, once their new office space has been, I guess, finished, and they'll be moving out of there, and then the programming the office will move back into that Natural Resources Building pending a good inspection. So DPW will go in, look at the building, make sure everything's square, and then we would move back in there, which I think will be great.
Oh, yeah.
That space.
It'll be awesome. We can fix it up like a little tennis club, and the kids can come down there after school and hang out and play tennis, and it
Yeah,
could be their spot, you know?
got a bathroom now
Whose
too.
office is it gonna be?
Say that again, Emma?
Whose office is it gonna be?
So Jetty's Tennis will move into where Natural Resources is. So, I mean, it's a seasonal operation from May to October,
Okay.
but they'll have that space, which has been great because, so that's a community school program. We have an MOU with the town of Nantucket, but you know, historically for the past couple of years since we moved into the shed there, we had porta potties, which, you know, it works, but it's not ideal when you have.
Yeah, and it's such a tiny space too.
Yeah, exactly.
Ironically, the bathrooms down there are very nice, so it'd be good for the kids to be able to use them again.
Yeah,
And you know, when they have their tennis matches and people come from off island to play them, you know, you put them in a porta potty, it's not a good look for,
right.
you know. So anyway, that's good news, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to fix it up, and I think you're going to get a lot of support in the community to rehabilitate the courts and put up new fences and new windscreens. You know, I know people, the tennis community is anxious to get that back. So,
Yeah.
you know, the other thing I just occurred to me the other day, because I know, you know, there's an issue with the hard courts down there. Did anyone ever look at turning them into clay courts? Would that make it easier to maintenance given the surface?
So that was never looked into. I mean, they've always been hard courts, but you know, I ironically enough was having a conversation with someone who does the courts over at Nantucket Yacht Club, and it sounds like in the long run, because you know, when you go and you do the resurfacing, unless you rip out you rubble the whole pile, you put in extension concrete, it's about a $500,000 project to do the whole thing over. Those clay courts, once they're installed, I mean, I don't know exactly what the price tag is to get them installed and put in like a retaining wall. But once you have, you know, the clay, it's like $10,000 a year. So the cost in the long run, it's an interesting point. I guess the one thing would be that, you know, who would be the devoted team to grooming those courts? You know, is that something that would fall on the DPW? Are they?
You're good. And the problem is with that wind down there with the courts, that wind is going to blow that clay right out of there unless you got a wall around it.
Yeah, you definitely have to put a retaining wall.
Yeah. Well, when the discussion comes up to resurface them, you know, we should put that option on the table and see what works.
Yeah.
Because I know they do the irrigation on the ground now, so you don't have to do the sprinkler systems and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, to Jack's point, we'd have to buy new heavy-duty windscreens and then cover them, and then cover the clay courts in the winter. You know, put like a tarp over them.
Yeah, I think they do that at the Westmore.
Yeah.
Because we get a lot of shell from the Gulf.
Just one thing quick. Can you let Maureen back into the meeting?
Yeah, I'm so bad at this.
That's okay.
Thanks. Sorry, Maureen. Not a very good host.
I hate the waiting room thing. You get stuck in it.
I know. Yeah, no, let's say I think you're muted, Maureen.
That's all right.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hi there.
How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
We're good. We're all healthy. How about you?
Same. Thank you.
Thank God.
Sorry, Jack. No Florida this year?
I don't think, not until I get my shot. And I don't think I'm going to get it too early.
No? Be on the second round?
Right.
So we blew halfway through the agenda without you, Maureen. I hope that's okay.
That's okay.
Are we going to break any rules? Did we break the law?
I don't know. I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, okay, good. Well, that's good. So, yeah, we covered the Nobadir issue, and I think everybody agrees. And then we talked a little bit about Jetty's Beach Tennis coming back, the place down there. And then I'm just going to, we can talk about, and it's great that you're joining now. So what I've been thinking, I don't know if we have a partnership with a 501c3 group, just in case Blair has to raise money for programming. I don't even know if it's relevant. Is that something we should be doing? Could do?
I don't know how it'll work with him being an employee
Mhm.
as well as on the commission. The commission can. I had included in the packet information from town council from a couple of years ago
Yeah,
between Cheryl Emery
yeah,
had received and Melissa Murphy
Mhm.
on like the distinction on what the money can be sort of used for. Like you guys can go ahead and fundraise, but you really have little say on how it can be spent and you definitely cannot spend it.
okay. Well, that's good
Um,
to know. Yeah,
It's in the packet.
okay, I'll look at it. I didn't see it, sorry.
And it's more of a email form because it's from Greg Tivnan on behalf of the Parks and Rec Commission, sending it to town council. And there's two different types of like bank accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and it definitely has to go into one type over the other.
And who ultimately decides how it's spent?
The board. I would imagine the select board
Okay,
and town treasurer.
okay. That's good to know. The reason I was curious, I know that, Blair has a lot of good ideas on programming, and Emma and Jack may have some as well. And, I don't think we're the type of organization that go out and raise a ton of money for, big projects, but, maybe raising money for some tennis equipment or basketball equipment just to support the kids and the young adults. I think there's a need, and it's just, based on my impression of not just what's going on in Nantucket, but other places, for things to get young adults engaged in at night, particularly during the winter, maybe have some sort of volleyball league, or in the summer as well, where they can, do something rather than just hang out in their basement and play video games. Not that they do that, but I think you know what I'm talking, what I'm trying to say. Do you think
Yeah.
there's a need for that, Blair?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it comes up all the time, and goes back to kind of the reason that we pushed for that rec center in the Parks and Rec master plan, is that I think that there's definitely a need in this community for some accessible recreation, and really for people of all ages, honestly. I
Mhm.
mean, it's so easy to say now because a lot of gyms are closed, but I think the options have been clearly dwindled down, and that's in part due to COVID. But I feel like looking at other communities
Yeah.
and seeing how far behind we are. It's even on the Vineyard, they have the Y over there. They have a place to go. They have different arms of that. There's childcare centers, things like that. I think that there's leagues that are interested in doing stuff, adult recreation leagues on island. But it ends up just kind of being one of those things where, a bunch of buddies get together and they organize it and they play flag football or, softball. But I think, that could be something that could be organized under having a rec center and having those sorts of activities run through that organization.
Yeah, I have the impression that volleyball, particularly amongst younger folks, is making a comeback. Do you think that's true? Are people playing more volleyball?
Yeah, I mean, I think having the team obviously helps that out. So the high school team here, I think they're in their third year.
Mhm.
So I think that the interest has definitely grown through that.
Yeah.
And I don't know at the adult level. I mean, I know people play beach volleyball, but they used to do a league. It was run through the community school actually, and it was done at nights. And I think Andrew Vaselli headed that up. And it was one of those things where they ran it for a number of years. There was a good audience, good attendance. And then we had another guy whose name's escaping me right now, who brought it back a few years later. And I think it was, relatively well attended, but I definitely think the interest there. I mean, even if it's not volleyball, there's other things as well.
Yeah.
Blair,
We
is
used to
that
run,
played inside or is it beach? And how many of the courts on Nantucket, basketball, soccer, whatever, are actually illuminated? Other than the high school football field, what has night lights?
I think just pickleball, to my knowledge.
Okay,
I mean, tennis doesn't, the Nobodier fields don't, the Delta fields don't, Tom Nevers doesn't. They just finished the construction of those pickleball courts, but I can't remember. I don't think, I'm almost positive the newer basketball court, the blue one at the school doesn't. And then the high school is like barely illuminated. I mean, there's lights there, but it's not one of those things where you could play into the evening hours.
You know what we might look at doing, and we should probably talk to Rob O'Neill, is, and this is more for spring, summer, and fall, is put like a sand pit out at Tom Nevers maybe and a couple of volleyball courts. Why, because that'd be easy to dismantle once the hardcore construction comes. It'll be right on the beach or near the beach, or maybe we can do that somewhere. What's the name? Can you do that at Jetty's Beach? Could we do it at Jetty's Beach? Have like a
Oh.
tournament down there?
They
Use
have
a-
a tournament in the summer.
we do tennis down there, but it's not long-term tennis.
I'm
It's
talking
just-
about volleyball. Maybe there would be some, and my company would be happy to help sponsor it. Blair, we should think about maybe having a volleyball tournament
We do,
sponsored.
we have one every summer on the beach,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. There's one once a year at Jetty's, I think.
right.
I don't know
But-
who puts it on.
And to use that beach permanently would take up beach space.
Yeah.
Couldn't do,
Well, anyway, it's a thought, and it's good to hear that they have a tournament down at Jetty's Beach, because that's a natural place for it. So,
Yeah.
We used to run the volleyball stuff and basketball tournaments in the winter in the high school gym. We ran that for years. That's when we had a director, though. That's when we had people working for us.
yeah.
So that was through Park and Rec, Jack?
Right, that was all through Park and Rec.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny because I mean, that's still around, but it's run at the Boys and Girls Club. We ran it the year that they constructed the new facility, but now they do that over at the Boys and Girls Club. Not
Right,
the,
we used to run it.
yeah, interesting.
Well, it's good that it's still happening.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's all I have. If anybody else wants to discuss things.
So, and we brought up Cheryl Emery. She started a 501c3. She was the former chair of this commission and started Nantucket Community Parks and Recs Association. They got their 501c3 status, and she hosted the Columbus Day tennis tournament at Westmore, and all the funds that would come in from that, they've donated to us for the past couple years to buy tennis equipment. So that's,
Nice.
hugely helpful to offset the cost of windscreens, nets, things like that for the upcoming seasons, making sure that we have new rackets for the people that come out and play. So,
That's good. No, I've played in that tournament, and it's a lot of fun, and she runs a very, very good tournament, and everybody who likes tennis on Nantucket that can make it, does make it.
Mhm.
And the cause is good. They're very generous people. So,
Yeah.
but, on that note, what we can do as a project over the next couple of years is come up with a plan to rehabilitate the courts down there. So
Yeah.
I have like a 5-year plan to make a decision on what's going to happen. But I'm very excited about the fact that we'll be getting the tennis club back, where the deep, what is it, the environmental
Natural
commission?
resources.
Yeah. Natural resources.
Yeah.
How, getting it back, did you hear from somebody that we're going to get it back?
Yeah.
Town is really shy of office space right now. I was surprised that they were going to give it to us.
Yeah. I mean, they have a new facility now. So we were able to get that moving forward. So next season, we'll go back into that space. I don't know if they'll use so previously we shared that with natural resources, and then they used the space that we were used to be, which is on the side I mean, if you're looking at the facility, there's that little overhang on
Right.
Port 1. So we had that back room there. And then they made that storage. So we moved into the shed, and now we'll be able to get what I assume would be the whole space. I mean, I don't know if they have other plans for the rooms that Natural Resources has their office in, but they have like the little printing area when you walk in on the right, office space on the left, and then that back space. So, I mean, it's a relatively large space, which is great.
It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah. Good views over there. Do you want me to give kind of updates on how things went on the community school front?
Yeah, that would be great. And also, I'm interested in youth basketball. So yeah, give us some insight into that. I want to make sure you have anything we can help you with the need for court time. See, the big problem on Nantucket, as you all know better than I, is indoor space in the winter, right?
Yes.
And I know that you're having a hard time. Are you having a hard time getting the space you need? Let me put it that way. How does that work?
So right now, as far as in-school spaces, I mean, we don't have access at all. They have their COVID-19 cleaning schedule. They've got right now, the only thing until January 6th is, or January 4th, when they return to school, the only thing that they have going on in the school is the basketball practices. So that's happening now. But as far as the community school and getting into those spaces, yeah, we haven't been able to since this all happened. So.
Well, the one time that I was down there with you coaching the kids, the turnout was pretty remarkable. I mean, the kids want to be there. And my question was more towards a normal operation, when COVID goes away. I mean, when I was down there, there must have been, I bet you there were 36 kids because we put them in lines of six. There was 36 to 40 kids down there.
Yeah.
And they would have been there all night had their parents not come drag them out. So, I think you have a very good following down there, Blair. And, to the extent that this commission can help support you, let us know.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we're planning on moving forward with our summer programming. We're planning all of that now, and our basketball camps is a big part of that, gymnastics camps. And, we have that whole sports camp arm as well as the day camps. And, it's kind of just wait and see. We had to cancel last year in the summer, our sports camps programs. It was really, just coming down to crunch time, and we wanted to transition and focus on childcare and make sure that we could keep the community safe. So that was kind of our priority in making that paramount. So we did run the day camp a lot smaller than normal. Typically we'll have about 60 kids on a weekly basis. We went down to like 20. So, running at a third of what you normally do. And that was just to make, consistent pods and have kids socially distant. And it gets a lot harder when you have young kids. We start at 3.5. So, that was just a decision we made. So, but we were able to run Jetties Tennis, which had a really successful season. We were so we do 60 tennis court reservations a day. We started a little late this year. We opened up on June 17th. But out of those 60 reservations we do a day, we filled about 70% of those. So we had a huge boom in tennis, and I think that was in large part to the private clubs not allowing guests this summer. So people came to play with us. We had like a little COVID screening that they would do, which was like our wellness check, would ask, all the standard questions. I'm sure you've all by now seen something of that nature. Then they would, fill the waivers, sanitize, get on the courts, wear their masks until they were on the courts. And then, at that point, you're socially distanced. So we allowed them to play singles without masks. And then doubles, they had to be in the same household. So that was all we did, singles and doubles play, and then private lessons and group lessons as long as they were in the same household. But, last year was our most successful season since I've been working with the program. And we did better this year than we did last year. And we didn't have any, we weren't contact traced at all. So that felt really good. And I think that there's a really big boom for tennis. So that's been great to see, to be able to offer that not only to the community, but to those that are visiting. And then just, not having clinics was tough, but we were able to supplement that by hiring more instructors and doing private lessons. And then we had programming as well. Typically, in a typical summer on the Nobodere farm fields, Delta fields, we would have camps running. This year, we weren't able to do that, which was a drag, but we, Jamie Lower, Nantucket Youth Lacrosse, the Liverpool Football Academy, Nantucket Little League and Strong Wings all did programming on the fields. So we adhered to the governor's orders at that time of no more than 25 on a field at once. And we're able to put non-traditional programming on the fields in a safe and social distant manner. So that was a huge success. And we were glad we were able to get kids out. It was mostly on the turf field, which was great, as we talked about before, to get those grass fields resting, and they now look amazing. But that's just kind of like the snapshot of our summer. And then we had some programs running this fall as well. And then that stakeholders meeting, we'll talk January 6th to plan for spring and summer 2021. So
Do you need any one of us to be there? Or are you going to represent us there? You can wear both hats at that, right?
yeah, definitely. And I'd welcome any of you that want to just kind of see what that side of things looks like to join. Just shoot me a message if you're interested, and I'll share the Zoom link. But we have
my only concern, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, people, maintenance and security are key.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I will definitely bring that up. Obviously, we want those facilities looking nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you just said to them, listen, guys, the town, Rob McNeil's maintenance crew, it's not their job to pick up after you.
Right.
Okay, it's their job to cut the grass. That's a full-time job right there. Just making sure that it's aerated, thatched, things are cut, things are painted. It's not to pick up wrappers and beer cans,
Right.
and make sure banners are properly folded, et cetera, et cetera. So in your own way, just be firm about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's another good point, though, as we talk about pushing this Parks and Rec master plan out. I think one of the things we talked about that's really important at that facility is security and having some sort of system. I don't know whether it's cameras, but I think that we should continue to be mindful of that as these things go forward, because that was definitely a big issue this summer. Is groups of people that were here for a week or a weekend would go out to the fields. Then we have people that are following rules and are scheduled and permitted to use the fields. And, this group from, say, a different state comes out and they don't have masks and they're on the fields, and now we're over 25 people. That was something that was difficult to manage, but it just made me think of that when you mentioned the trash out there.
Yeah, well, we discussed it before. What I would do, I mean, it shouldn't cost a lot of money, is that I would have a system that registered with a photograph, with a like a doorbell camera that most people have now, and like the UPS, you can see who comes to your doorbell.
Yeah.
Take a picture of every car's license plates that comes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Easy enough to do, that's that. And then I would have a couple of cameras, like doorbell cameras, positioned around the facility so that it has 24-hour surveillance. Because like even, and I love dogs, don't get me wrong, I have a dog, my dog's my best friend, but I would never let it go down to the soccer field and run on the soccer field.
Right.
People, that's something that we have to be careful of, because, it's a natural inclination to take your dog down to a field and let it run, which is fine. Take them down to the beach, but you don't take them down to a soccer field that cost $500,000 to build.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And it's a cultural thing. So,
Right.
Blair, who's involved in the stakeholder meeting?
So it's typically me, Tracy Roberts, who's my director, Rob McNeil, DPW, Mark Voigt from the DPW, and then Richard Moore from the DPW. And then we have just kind of anyone that uses the fields on any given season. So a representative from Nantucket Soccer Club, Nantucket Youth Lacrosse, Little League, and that's kind of where we go over like the rules of the fields, making sure everyone gets their permit in, and then talk about like the grid of scheduling and what that looks like. We invite the summer users, but they typically don't come to the meetings. But we do have, a good number of vendors as well that use the fields in the summer, like Fog Lacrosse and Miller Lacrosse, different organizations like that. But yeah, it's mostly community school, DPW, and then like the Nantucket heads of their organizations.
yeah. So that's a good point that Emma brought up, because, we should not have any illusions. Once this plan is done, the master plan is done, and the town has invested $28 million, $30 million into it, you're going to need some sort of park ranger. Okay. And that's not cheap, but in the end, it pays for itself. And it would probably involve a couple, because Nantucket, although it's small, the parks and the beaches are dispersed, right? I mean, it's, except for Delta Field, Nova Deer, and that area, they're fairly dispersed. But you have to have a presence, and the park ranger should have a uniform, so people say, okay, somebody's looking after this. I'm not going to do something silly. And that person has to be able to, issue tickets and tell people to move, and et cetera, be the heavy on it, to make sure that the rules are followed. Because if you don't have that, people are going to abuse the fields.
Yeah. Yeah, you get people going out there doing donuts like over at Tom Nevers.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's really going to come back on, town management, which is not fair, because they're not the ones who did it. They're trying to save money. But and I think we need to get on the agenda, to the extent that we're able, those types of discussions, just general maintenance and security. Because in my experience of working with parks, in the city of Boston, if I had one thing to focus on, it would be a good maintenance crew. If you say, Tom, you only have one thing, is a good maintenance crew and a relationship with the police department that comes by and checks it out. In Boston, they call it putting it on the bat. And to make sure that all of our facilities are on the Nantucket Police Department bat every day.
Yeah.
And that should start now.
Yeah, I had a pretty good open line of communication with them. We actually leaned on them when we had a lot of that road use, and I was fielding calls and complaints, and they would go and pop by there and check. We equipped them with the grid of who's permitted. I mean, it wasn't the perfect system, but they were definitely helpful to combat it. I know they kicked a number of people off the fields several times, but I think that it's definitely something that's important as we move forward with this stuff.
Yeah, it's important to set the tone early on.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you don't have to be obnoxious about it. Just people see a uniform and a badge, and just laying out the rules and how it's going to be, then it works out well, and it's all for the betterment of the park system.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about the community school and Parks and Recs joining together?
Wow.
I've heard that that's being talked about. They haven't talked to us about it yet, but I heard that they're talking about it.
So I was pulled in on a conversation today. I mean, we currently run the memorandum of understanding for those fields, which we've called community recreation. But I don't know. I think it's still a conversation that I have been removed from the majority of that. But I, met with a conversation today. I don't know if it would really change anything than what's going on now.
Right.
But if updates come up on that, I will certainly bring those back to the board.
The other thing is that we have to go over all those plans and everything that was done, pick what we want and present that before the Community Preservation Committee, because they have money for recreation. Now, this year, nobody put in for it. There's no recreation money at all this year. They just held the money back because nobody applied for it. But there is money every year available for recreation. But you have to apply for it.
And
And
that
you
would
have to apply for it by sometime early in September, I believe.
correct. So I think it would take Blair and I out of it because we're town employees and that would be a huge conflict.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is quite an extensive application. But like you say, Jack,
Right, it is.
there isn't a ton of competition for the dollars. So I don't want to say you don't have to make a huge elaborate presentation as long as we have a good idea of what the money's going to be spent on. It doesn't have to be all flowery, but it has to be well thought out.
You need to have plans like we have in this report. A lot of that stuff, we need to get that to them.
And, if you want to start on it, I know it's Glenna Stokes who has the application over at CPC. So,
Right.
I can just send you her information so you can take a look at what's expected.
I mean, I
Yeah.
serve on that committee.
So you're out
So you
too.
become,
Okay, Tom, Emma, you're up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, like, do we have the authority to do anything? Like, for example, say if we wanted to apply for that money for security cameras at the Nobody Fields or something like.
they'd want to see more than that. They'd want to see an overall plan, which you don't.
No, I understand that like the application project is lengthy, but like, say we get approved, like, do we have the authority to do the project?
Pinpoint where you want the monies to go to.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the application. That's what they want. They don't want a broad, we need money for our parks. They want a specific
But
project.
would we have to get the select board approval before that?
Right. We have to go to them first, get approval, which Tom has been to them already on the overall plan. And they were very interested at the time, but we need to follow through with that.
They're really supportive.
Right.
We
It's
could
almost,
I know we talked about like at the Tom Nevers Park, there's like a playground in the master plan, and we talked about maybe being like, oh, we could get CPC funding like just for the playground. And since it's already in the master plan, we could get it approved and then use the money for that or something.
Right. You could use money for that. You could. Right.
and like an example of monies that's been applied for and used is the Hinsdale Park that Land Bank did over on Old South. And, it doesn't happen overnight. So it's the money's doled out in installments as pieces of the project are completed. But,
Right.
you have to know exactly what pieces of equipment you're putting in there, get all the estimates for the work that's going to be done,
A lot of that money came from CPC.
all of it.
But
Or,
since
yeah,
we're only really acting as like a
advisory.
advisory, like say for example, like I kind of like the idea of a security camera at like the Nobody Field, but we don't own that land. Like we're not an organization like Land Bank or Mariah Mitchell who like is a stakeholder in the land? Like, could we?
But I believe we have, say, 100-year lease on the property. So not that you own it, but you would have
But we just probably would have to get some sort of approval to do
dual,
it.
The thing is, for money for us,
yes, lots of approvals.
and the problem is getting people that are gonna watch that. We had the problem.
Well,
up
yeah,
at-
that's true too.
Up behind the school, we built those skating park there. And we
Yeah.
put cameras in there, but nobody wants to look at them to see.
Well, I know it's more like this, the way I envisioned that working is that, okay, let's say that we had money to spend on cameras. So I would put a camera at a camera at the front saying, smile, you're on TV.
I
So
think
they
that
know
would
that
be
you're
required by
being
law.
watched. And then it's more of like a find out who done it type of thing. And say that,
Okay.
let people know that every license plate is being photographed. And like to Blair's example out of Tom Nevers, when somebody tore up the field, we could just run it back and find out who did it
Right,
and settle it that way. But knowing those camera, you can't pay somebody to sit in front of a camera and look at it all day, obviously. So it's more to capture data than really monitor it in real time, because the damage done out of Tom Nevers was very substantial.
right. The one at the school for that school park, skating park, we tried to get the school to take care of the camera, but they didn't want it at all. They didn't want nothing to do with it, even though it was on their property.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that you could just put it up on the web, and just let the camera catch it on the web. And I think a sign that says, smile, you're on candid camera, no, it'll get their attention,
Yeah,
I think in terms of the CPC money, like it could just be part of something that's already in the master plan too.
right.
Adding another field or a playground. Like we could take a chunk out and get funding for it. And then that would be less that we'd be
To-
presenting to the board to
to-
approve the town.
For them in September.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again, Jack?
You need to get going now to be ready to go before CPC in September.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could start looking at the application, Emma and I, and I'm familiar with those types of application, and maybe Emma has experience, but they're a pain in the neck to fill out. The good news is that once you fill it out, you can recycle it year after year.
Right,
Yeah, if you have something else, the initial information, and
And I-
tying it into this project is a natural fit. The other thing that would be helpful for me, Maureen, and is that people we all know that perception is 90% of reality, and sometimes I get questions about maintenance. Does DPW have a formal maintenance schedule, like a written maintenance schedule that they follow for the fields? Like, do they cut
I
the
don't know.
grass 8 times a year and do the air rating on September 15th? And do they have, how many guys are dedicated and all that type of thing to the
I
fields?
think
Right now, this past year, they've really been short of help, a lot of help. They've got, I think, 3 guys left from when I left there.
wow.
It's only 3 of the old guys left. It's all new help out there.
And it's also really weather dependent.
Yeah.
Right,
No, it's very hard to maintain fields properly, and Nantucket, we have a lot of them. We have a fair number of fields. So,
I know Rob had sent you that one schedule, and I don't remember if grass cutting's done every other week. I think he wanted to turn the turf field twice a year. I don't know if that's happened, because for a couple years it was not done on a proper schedule.
right.
yeah, so that's all the more reason, it's easy to point fingers at DPW, and I'm not trying to carry their water. But, people, when they complain about the condition of the field, it's a legitimate complaint, obviously, because the field's not in good shape. But do they really know what goes into fixing them and maintaining them and using them properly and making sure that there's security? So you need equipment and you need personnel to properly maintain the fields, period.
Quick,
And-
quick comment and compliment on that to, so the DPW is working on a contract to get a biannual turning of that turf field, to Maureen's point. And then the same with like overseeding, aerating, thatching of grass. They've actually done really good because I mean, Jack, you mentioned it. I mean, they're, you know, they don't have tons of people to help out, especially
Right.
devoted to the fields. They've put some of that work out to bid. And I think that's a testament to why those fields look so good too. Not only the rest, but they're mowed every Friday on a weekly basis. And then those other contracts have been put out to bid for the work that, you know, isn't in their scope or capacities, which I think is great. And these are all things that weren't done before.
And hasn't Rob only been out at the DPW maybe 3 years, 2? So he inherited a lot of lack of
Right.
schedule, lack of consistency that he's in the process of trying to iron out. So
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's why I think we need to support them any way they can, because the other thing I noticed about Nantucket is that there's a lot of capital projects going on, right? I
Right.
mean, a lot of other work going on. And I have some familiarity through my work, what that entails. So, you know, when Jack says they're spread thin, I really believe that. I mean, that's easy to believe. And I think people on the island have to have reasonable expectations of what can be done and when it can be done. So I think one thing the island does have is a lot of lawn expertise. You know, there's a lot of people who know how to mow lawns
Right.
and thatch. I mean, we're probably better at it than anyone on the planet. So, and that's something that we might be able to raise money for, to take a little pressure off DPW. You know, find out how much it costs to, say, maintain, what's that little park in the middle of town? It's really nice. I forgot the name of it. It's right in the middle of that
Church.
residential area. So what would it cost to hire a contractor to maintain one of the soccer fields at Nobadeer? You know,
a
something like,
lot,
yeah, a lot.
a lot,
Yeah.
especially when you consider that they can go to a private household and, you know, they cut their grass twice a week. I've done books for landscapers. They don't come cheap.
No, I know that. So that would be, and maybe there's different ways to incentivize, like say maybe or draw on, maybe we can draw on the expertise of Myacomic Golf Course and
Land bank personnel.
yeah, land bank personnel. And obviously, I don't think we should ask people to do something for free. That everybody has to live. But at the same time, if there's money that we can raise to make sure that DPW has enough support, because labor's hard to get.
Resources.
Yeah, labor, you know, as long as I've been coming to Nantucket for the last 20 years, people that do labor for landscapers make pretty good money, right? I mean, they're busy,
Yeah.
as you said. Right?
I think that's an understatement.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a job landscaping in the summer, go to Nantucket, you'll have one, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's something else, Emma. You know, maybe we could do it in conjunction, Emma, like put together a proposal that has security and maintenance in it, and then put it into the city coffers, and they can put it out to bid. Does that make sense, Maureen?
Say that
Well,
again?
DPW, the
Go ahead, Jack.
DPW can get out to bid. They've done that before. Those fields at one time were put out to bid each year,
Yeah.
and the town took them over.
All right, well, send over the application,
Okay.
Maureen. I'll take a look at it and copy Emma on it. She can take a look at it too if she wants to, and we'll figure it out.
Okay, good.
And I think I've asked Glenna before. I wanted to see, and Jack, you already know what it looks like, but I wanted to see what an actual submitted application looks like. Not that they're requesting a similar ask, but
Right.
just to see the extent and how flowery it has to be. You know, is it really nuts and bolts
I
or
got
is
a whole,
it?
all of this year's plans I have right here. So stop
Oh.
by my house, time you can take a look at them.
Are they for public viewing or?
I suppose so, they've been through public meetings.
True, okay. Good point. I just think it would be helpful to have not necessarily a template, but
An example would be great.
exactly.
Right, I'll give you an example of what they do.
Okay,
Yeah. And, what we're doing ties right into this big project, so. And I think that project's underway. I think Rob's actually started already, hasn't he, Maureen? Isn't he doing something?
okay, Tom. Town starting something and you starting something are completely different timelines.
Oh, are they? That's a nice way of saying, put on the brakes.
I wouldn't say putting on the brakes, but you may go 50 miles an hour and, we go at a nice 15, 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
It's jumping through a lot of hoops, lots of approvals and permitting. So it will not go at the same speed that,
No, but I'm not suggesting you do because I understand that. But I think I was happy to hear it. I think he said something that it started, that he was doing something. So, but anyway.
it's like
No,
slow move.
working on,
Yeah.
as far as the plans for that building to be built out there.
At Nobodere.
Right,
Yeah, that's one that has to go back to ATM in 2021 for more
Right.
more funding.
right.
Yeah. I know that was actually a project. Got to give Rob credit there for I mean he inherited that one. That was, I think, 6, 7, 8 years old at the time, and he got it underway and got the OPM, the designer, and I mean they were ready to break ground this past summer, and then it just came back that they couldn't get it down to the cost that it needed with the money that was available. And you think obviously, inflation when you're dealing with a 12-year-old project.
That's the thing.
Allowance.
Yeah.
You're gone 1 year out on those plans. It's
Yeah.
already cost money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But yeah, that'll be great to have for that. I mean, that's a necessity on that property.
All right. So we went past an hour. Does anyone have any more comments, et cetera?
Good to see everybody.
Yeah, great to see everyone.
Yeah, and we
Glad
don't have to
everybody's
get,
healthy.
we don't have to get in a car and drive it a nasty night to go home. Works out well.
Right.
That's true. I'm about to drive through the flood in town. I'm down at Center Street, so I'm heading home after this.
Oh no,
I'm hoping I don't sink my car.
don't go easy street.
Yeah, no, we were talking about that.
Sorry, Emma.
before. Yeah. Ugh, crazy.
All right, guys. Meeting adjourned. Make a motion. How do we do this, Maureen? Just say goodnight?
No, make a motion. Then you have to roll call it.
Oh,
Right.
really? Somebody
Yeah,
want to
Mike.
make a motion to adjourn?
I did.
Second?
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Got a roll call.
Oh, Jack,
Yes.
Emma,
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Do I have to ask myself, Maureen?
Yes, you have to vote too.
Oh, yes, adjourned. Adjourned. All right, guys.
Better at that.
Good night.
Bye,
Everybody
everyone.
looks healthy and well. It's good to see you. You're good people. I really enjoy this.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Everyone.
Oh, bye-bye.